Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honablew Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honablew Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. I'm excited. You know why I'm excited. You know why I'm excited, right? It's Titillating Tuesday! And we will soon be joined by our Chief Titillating Officer, the incomparable Stacey Dennis. But right now, as we get things hither and thither, I want to make sure that I say thank you to you. You all make this show possible. You all are the reason that we work hard and we do it. We do the background research and all of that. And we're grateful. I think it's important that, what do they say? Give people their flowers now. Back in my day, it was heartbeat props, and the sentiment is still always the same. We need to take a little bit of time out and just say thank you. So, thank you. I appreciate you greatly. Let's see. Because, I'm not trying to have no trouble. I'm going to talk about all the stuff I'm supposed to talk about before we get to what's going on today. Oh, you know where I want to start? Breadcoin. I am so happy to partner with Breadcoin. Let me tell you about this organization. It is a alternative payment system for people who may be facing homelessness, living in starvation zone, or have other nutritional or food security issues. What Breadcoin does is it takes the donations and it pairs them up with these coins that they minted. So right now, each coin has a value of about $2.50. These coins are distributed through a network of organizations and individuals who are currently and have for a while been active in the community. They know the people who may have fallen through the cracks. They know how to access and they have already gained their trust. And so through this established network of community providers and community members, Breadcoin distributes the coins, and the individuals who receive the coins, they take them to the participating restaurants or caterers, and they're able to purchase their meals with these coins. They're able to have their nutrition and food insecurity issues addressed without having to sacrifice their dignity. There are a lot of times where we ask people to give up their dignity for some assistance. I've heard people on numerous occasions, hell, I keep it 85 with y'all at least, maybe not 100. There have been times where I've been that person. As I was younger, I would say things like, well, they don't look like they need money. But even in that conceptualization of what people in need have to look like in order to be worthy of our help, support, and those things, that's not who I want it to be. And ultimately, I chose not to be that. Ultimately, I chose to make sure that I'm on the side of helping people maintain their dignity, that I'm on the side of providing assistance for the sake of providing assistance, not because they look like they need. Service is for service's sake. So all that to say, I am grateful that we had the opportunity to partner with an organization like Breadcoin, who is, their members, their team, they're out in the community, they're making a difference, and they're changing lives. So big up to Breadcoin. We have ongoing coverage of Maryland's 2022 election cycle. Please stay tuned. Please stay engaged so that you can know what's going on. We have some very different messages coming through, or very different options coming through in this November. And it is important that as voters that we stay educated, we stay engaged, and we stay aware of what's going on. So To that end, BlackUSA.news has compiled our interviews with candidates, our political commentary, our interviews with supporters and community members in general. And we pulled all that stuff together in one place so that you can take a look and find out about the candidates that you are interested in, that you can find about candidates you may not have heard of before. There was actually, I told this story before, there was a candidate that I really didn't think all that much of until I heard their interview on Donnie's show. And I was like, huh. It changed my perspective and changed the dynamic of how I saw him. Okay, let's get rid of that. What else? Oh, Darker Than Blue. Darker Than Blue Grill, located at 413 North Charles Street, is an amazing time. The food is incredible. It is a joy to the palate. You all know how I feel about the Cowboy Prime Rib. So if you get an opportunity to go to Darker Than Blue Grill, please do so. Not just because you'll have a great time and the food is good and the staff is courteous and attentive. You'll be supporting a business that supports our community. It is nothing to see the staff at Darker Than Blue in the community serving food, catering events, and even letting organizations that otherwise wouldn't be able to access a venue downtown use their facility for events and things like that. So big up to Darker Than Blue. And if you all get an opportunity, please make sure you stop by. It's a great time. You will have a great time. I'm looking for my co-host here. I don't know if I can carry a conversation on syphilis today by myself. Okay. Well, you know what? I can do the beginning part. Let's do that. We covered this a while ago when we first started talking about sexually transmitted infections. Let me get myself off here. All right, about sexually transmitted infections. What you see is that sexually transmitted infections, like we've talked about up to this point, gonorrhea, chlamydia, herpes, HIV, 1 in 5 people in the United States has an STI. That means that 20% of the population in any point in time have a sexually transmitted infection. And what we've done to the disservice of our public health situation and our treatment of sexually transmitted infections is that we still have a stigma around sexually transmitted infections and the types, quote unquote, the types of people who get them. The morality of sex in America plays out in how we stigmatize individuals who are positive for sexually transmitted infections. Hey, Michael, how's it going? In 2018, this is that last good information I was able to get. There was 26 million new sexually transmitted infections in the United States. And again, like we covered in previous shows, some of those are ones where, people get them, there's treatment, and they move on. Many of them are handled by a few pills. There are some that are a little bit more difficult to deal with. But there are 26 new every year. People are having sex. That is the reality of the world we live in, the country we live in. People are having sex. And when people have sex, and an infection is in the pool, that infection will pass. So that's why it's important. And, we always advocate getting tested for STIs just on a regular basis. Just make it part of your annual checkup. There's nothing wrong with getting a test for a sexually transmitted infection. Worst case scenario, they confirm that you don't have a sexually transmitted infection. Best case scenario, you have a sexually transmitted infection and you get, okay, well, maybe that's not the best case scenario. Okay, well, it sounded good in my head. Okay, so the best case scenario is that they test you and you're negative for a sexually transmitted infection. The next best scenario is that if you are positive, you catch it early, you get it treated, and you're able to, and it doesn't disrupt anything in your life. That's why getting tested is so important. Stacey, in the last few series on sexually transmitted infections, Stacey said often, make sure before you get into a sexual relationship with someone, get tested. When you get out of a relationship with someone, get tested. If you have any questions about whether that person is being sexually safe, get tested. There is nothing wrong with getting tested. There are free tests at the health department in virtually every community. There is an opportunity to get free sexually transmitted infection testing. Absolutely free. And they have people who are on staff that if your test results come back positive, guess what? You can get treated right there. You can start your course of medicine or whatever protocol that you need. You can start it right there. There is nothing wrong with getting tested. If you don't take anything from our conversations here or what we've been talking about, take that, please. Get tested. Hey, Patty, how's it going? Good morning to you. Let's see. And direct medical costs. And so we're talking about patient stays, medication, seeing doctors and things like that. That equals $16 billion a year. 16 billion. So if you have a sexually transmitted infection, the direct care adds into that. Imagine what we could do with an extra 16 billion. And think also about the quality of life that people can enjoy if they don't have to deal with sexually transmitted infections. Now, it's very interesting that our conversation, well, it's not interesting, it's fairly deliberate, that our conversations on the show, Titillating Tuesdays, tend to center around teaching youth about sexually transmitted infections, safe sex, and how to navigate and negotiate those things. Because if you look at the sexually transmitted infections, almost half of them are on people between the ages of 15 and 24. That's almost half. So that means that they have the disease earlier on in their lives so that the impact will last with them longer. Again, if we can get sexual health education not just into the schools, but into our communities, into our families, into our just regular conversation, we might be able to have a more substantial impact on these costs and the implications that they have on our students and our youth. Let's see. Let's go. Okay, so this is the incidence and prevalence chart from the United States. And when we look at this sexually transmitted infections, what you see, we've covered HPV, we've covered herpes, I always do trick. Yeah, let's just do that. We covered chlamydia, and today we're going to talk about syphilis. If you take a look at syphilis is not a very prevalent, or it does not have as high incidence or prevalence as some of these other diseases. And remember, incidence is the number of new cases in a given period of time, normally a year. So if, let's say, the incidence of HIV, the incidence of syphilis is 146,000. That means that there are 146,000 new cases during this time frame. The prevalence of syphilis is 156,000. That means that there are 156,000 cases total. And the reason that they measure it this way is that different diseases have different incidences versus their prevalence. So if you look at HIV has a lower incidence. So that means there are fewer new cases every year, but has a higher prevalence, which means that people are living with HIV longer. So HIV is one of those diseases that doesn't, go away. So that's why there's a larger or a higher prevalence of people who have it in their community than there are the incidents with something like HIV. If you look at syphilis, the incidents are 146,000 and the prevalence is 156,000. I think that means, and I defer to someone with greater expertise, but what I think that means based on my conversations with my co-host is that a lot of the syphilis that you see in community gets treated. Like if it's detected in this year, it's resolved in this year. So that's why the incidence and the prevalence seem as close as they do. But, again, I defer to someone who, if you have some more superior information, please bring it and share it. Okay. So This is kind of the wave of how much each one of these diseases cost. Remember, we talked about the 16 billion in direct medical costs. 25% of that cost go to women. Of the total cost is specifically focused on women, which I find that really interesting. I would have, and every time I see that, it's like, wow. I would have thought that there would have been higher cost for treatment of women just because women's reproductive organs are on the inside. I would have been wrong. See, this is why you need information. Again, look at how much this cost the youth make up. 26% of the cost. Wow. If you look at this bottom curve, you see that direct medical cost of syphilis is about $174 million. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about syphilis. So I got this from the Arizona Department of Health. It is a really great kind of guide to syphilis. So there are two different. Looks like there are two different stages when you have primary syphilis and secondary syphilis. And again, I'm going to walk us through this as much as I can. So when you have primary syphilis, the person becomes infected, and then they may develop sores or develop symptoms, and then the symptoms disappear. And if they come back, then it's secondary syphilis. The treatments vary, but again, you know what? I'm outside of my depth on this one. I'm not even going to pretend with y'all. This is what I hope she's okay. I know she was out and about jet setting in New York and things like that. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing else to give you today. Guess we'll call it early. Have a great one.